Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning to all of you. My name is Kamal Vora and I am the current Secretary General of the Indo-American Chamber of Commerce, also known as ISCC. I am pleased to extend a cordial welcome to all of you to this session on ease of investing in India. In today's panel, we have experienced stalwarts and experts to provide deep insights into the subject. We are going to begin with a few words of welcome by ISCC's President, Ms. Sajalakshmi Rao. Let me say a few words of introduction. Ms. Sajalakshmi Rao is the first woman president in ISCC's 52 years of existence. A multifaceted personality, Ms. Rao holds directorship in Reva Sport Limited and Tech Mahindra Limited. Ms. Rao has been a member of Insurance Advisory Committee of IRDA since 2015. She is the former member judge of the National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission, the only person who has served 18 years at all the levels of district, state, and NCDRC. Ms. Rao has penned two popular books. The first one is called Consumer is King, Know Your Rights and Remedies. This book was released in 12 languages with 4 revised English editions. The other book is called Consumer Rights and You. Ms. Rao is the past president of American Alumni Association, a group of people who had studied in USA and came back to India, where she started scholarship in the form of travel awards for bright Indian students desirous of pursuing higher studies in the US. Ms. Rao is a member of the Management Committee of Indian Merchant Chamber and Namaste America. She is a member, she is the founder chairperson of All India Foundation of Deaf Women. She is a member of the Advisory Board of Council for Fair Business Practices. Among other numerous awards, Ms. Rao is the recipient of Dr. Ambedkar Ratna Award and Rajiv Gandhi Award for Excellence. Ms. Rao is a commerce graduate and she has obtained Masters in Advertising from University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign, USA. Now, may I request you to please welcome Ms. Sajalakshmi Rao.
Good morning, friends in India and friends in USA, good evening. It gives me great pleasure to extend a warm welcome to all of you on behalf of Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. Today's session is on ease of investing in India. Everybody is all ears to hear this. This is the current topic in the country. This event is organized in association with Invest India. Our supporting partners for this event is AZENT Overseas Education Limited and KOTAK Commodities Services Private Limited. For the benefit of these illustrious listeners, I would like to say a few words about Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. It has been there for 52 years and now has taken the center stage in facilitating smooth exchange of Indo-US bilateral trade views between both the countries. Today, ISCC has pan-India presence with around 2,000 members representing cross-section of US and Indian industry. The geographical spread of ISCC is unique. We operate through 10 offices located throughout the country. We are focusing on the core vision of providing a platform for the business entities, especially medium and small companies, and extend support to them to come together and be partners in progress. In ISCC, we have been holding a number of webinars on COVID-19 to discuss the impact of the pandemic, both at the national and regional levels. Our idea is to help governments at the central and state, industry, other development agencies to discuss the impact threadbare from all aspects, be it financial, supply chain, demand compression, employment, or health issues, to bring the stakeholders to a consensual path. Naturally, our main focus is on Indo-US economic engagement and growth. We are very happy to inform you, we are doing 10 series, annual conference series in this month, and this is the 7th one. And we have 3 more tomorrow, which is the last day of our series. Just to let you know, we started with the very first one with eye care, an emphasis of Indian and American scenario, which all the doctors from US had come in, along with Dr. Natarajan, who is a retina specialist in India, and Mr. Bomani Rani, who supported it, and Dr. Preeta Rajaram from US Embassy, and Jan John Prakash and Mr. Michael Cheetham had also joined, and Dr. Ravi Goyal had joined from US. And then we had a banking session and financial services insurance, how it can help India achieve US $5 trillion economy by 2025. We held it on 22nd of this month on banking and 23rd on insurance. And we had Mr. Anurag Singh Thakur, Minister of State for Finance, Government of India, who addressed us, and Ms. Eileen Nandi, Minister Counselor for Commercial Affairs, US Embassy, she addressed also, and Mr. Ashokula, CEO of Citibank, India, Ms. Kaku Nakate, President Country Head India, Bank of America, Mr. Rajneesh Kumar, Chairman, State Bank of India, Mr. Randuti Bhattacharya, Chairperson and CEO of Salesforce, ex-CMD, SBI. And on insurance, we had IRDA Chairman, Dr. Kuntia, who addressed us. And we had Girish Radhakrishnan, who's the Chairman of United India Insurance. And also from industry, Mr. Prabodh Thakkar, who's a Global Brokers Limited Chairman, and others. And on 24th, we had 3 sessions, starting with eminent speakers like Mr. Tim Fisher, Dr. Ranjana Pathak, and Mr. Mahesh Doshi. And we had from US FDA, Dr. Letitia Robinson and Sarah McMillan, who actually talked to us about the pharma rules and regulations as of today, just to help all the pharma members. And we had Mr. Ajit Singh from Associated Capsules Chairman, and Dr. Krishna Ella, CMD, Bharat Biotech International Limited, regarding vaccine, and Mr. Nanik Rupani, Chairman, Neutron Electronic Systems, who's also our past president of WIC. We had a session on dispute resolution landscape between India and US, which was held on 26th. And we had Justice Mr. Arjun Sikri, former judge, Supreme Court of India, Mr. Darais Kambata, senior advocate, Mr. Vyapak Desai, partner Nishit Desai, and Mr. Suresh Kotak, chairman, Kotak Commodities Services Private Limited. They shared their knowledge in this deliberation. These events were very successful and extremely well attended also. And we have today's one thing about investing in India, and we have 3 more tomorrow, and that's I will just mention that this series is being addressed by His Excellency Mr. Kenneth Juster, US Ambassador to India, tomorrow at 10:30 onwards. And right after that at 11:30 we have Ease of Doing Business in USA, and that is being started with an invocation of our famous singer and music director Shankar Mahadevan. And then we have Eileen Nandi, Minister of Counselor for Commercial Affairs, US Embassy, New Delhi. And this is being led by Mr. C.P. Gunani, CEO Tech Mahindra, and along with Mr. Shiv Kumar, Group Executive President, Corporate Strategy and Business Development, Aditya Birla Group, Mr. Rajendra Gupta, Chairman, Trident Group, Mr. Hemant Luthra, Advisor, Clayton, Dubilier and Rice, and Mr. G.P. Hinduja, Co-Chairman, Sycurix Systems Hinduja Group. These series have been done, and we are ending with, again, healthcare. We started with it, ending with it, and tomorrow evening, Watershed in Healthcare, a comprehensive review of complications, impact, and future of healthcare at 4 o'clock tomorrow, maybe 3. Dr. Harsh Mahajan, founder and Chief Radiology, Mahajan Imaging, Dr. Abdul Samad Ansari, Director, Critical Care, Nanavati Hospital, Dr. Deepak Patkar, President, Indian Radiology and Imaging Association, President, IRIA, Director, Medical Services Head, Department of Imaging, Nanavati, and Dr. Rajendra Patankar, Chief Executive Officer, Jupiter Hospital. And I just wanted to tell you this little bit of scenario because not much time is left. Just in case some of these participants who are listening to us, I want them to also come in tomorrow to get the benefit of tomorrow's speakers. And in today's most exciting session, we have distinguished speakers who are going to enlighten us on ease of investing in India. It's music for everyone to hear that, because what is the ease? Because everybody wants investments in this country, and our 1.3 billion are waiting to see that we really have a rise in our economy with investments coming from US. For this, we have a wonderful moderator, young Mr. Vishal Bakshi. He's young, but extremely talented. He's the founder and managing partner at Avatar Growth Capital Partners, a private equity investment firm focused on growth stage technology companies. Prior to founding Avatar Growth Capital, Vishal was at Goldman Sachs for 16 years. As MD, he led Goldman Sachs' 1 billion private equity business in India. He was responsible for successful investments across industries, including in Max India, Mahindra and Mahindra, Renew Wind Power, and Antuit. In New York, Vishal was global head of IT services, M&A, and corporate finance as part of Goldman Sachs Media Telecom Investment Banking Division. He led over 20 M&A and corporate finance transactions valued at over 15 billion. In the mid-90s, he led private equity syndication at the investment banking joint venture between ICICI and JP Morgan. He has an MBA in finance from Columbia Business School and a postgraduate degree in management from IIM Ahmedabad and BA in economics from St. Stephen's College, Delhi. And now I would like to introduce our eminent speakers. Each of them are such fantastic stalwarts in both in India and US. I have to give the proper introduction. I cannot just say their name and leave it at that. So let me finish the other introductions. Mr. Shrikant Bapat is the Managing Director and Country General Manager of Johnson Controls Private Limited. He joined Johnson Controls Building Efficiency Division as an MD in 2012. He has 25 years of experience in the industry in various fields. He has worked a lot in power quality and improvement, the same in India during his working with Emerson Network Power. He has been involved with the green building movement from his days at Emerson Climate Technologies, where he was MD from 2006 to 2012. Mr. Bapat has bachelor's degree in electrical engineering from Sardar Patel College of Engineering and a master's in management studies from University of Mumbai. And we go to US. We have Daniel Robin. He's the founder and managing partner of In3 Capital Partners. He has more than 20 years of financial, executive, impact investing, and venture catalyst experience, specializing in clean technology project development and investment readiness. Daniel brings diverse industry experience in clean energy, renewable resources, food, water, forestry, waste to value, sustainable agriculture, health, nutraceuticals, biometricals, green chemistry, IT, fintech, and real estate housing. He has also been co-founder of Renewables Investors Forum, RIF. Formerly, he was an adjunct professor at Monterey Institute of International Studies. Now it is called Middlebury Institute. He taught entrepreneurship, business planning, impact investing, and innovation for sustainability. And we have Mr. Alok Agarwal. Mr. Alok Agarwal really didn't want to give a great introduction for himself, and I have no idea how to introduce him. More than five lines. I think rest of it is, it's all in the newspapers to know what his effect is on this country itself. Alok Agarwal is CFO of Reliance, India's largest company by market cap and profits. He has been with Reliance for nearly 30 years and CFO since 2007. He has been a part of the incredible journey, I would say incredible journey, of Reliance to India's only $200 billion market cap company. He has an engineering degree from IIT Kanpur and an MBA from IIM Ahmedabad. His passion are quant analysis and distance running. And this particular speaker, Mr. Agarwal, is extremely shy to give his biodata. It was very difficult to get from him, but having done this 30 years of work with Reliance and to bring it to this level, what kind of work you must have put into this, I mean, to make India so big in everybody's eyes and brought a lot of pride to our country. We really appreciate your great work, Mr. Agarwal, although you're very humble and you're not mentioning anything much here. And now, Dr. Pallav Chatterjee. He's the chairman of Three Lines Venture Capital. He's an internationally recognized seasoned high-tech executive with experience in private equity, corporate general management, corporate governance, strategy, technology, operations, and outsourcing. Most recently, Dr. Chatterjee was with Symphony Retail, artificial intelligence, where he pioneered AI system that used conversational insights to deliver powerful root cause insights leading to predictive and prescriptive operational actions. Prior to Symphony Retail, Dr. Chatterjee was a managing director and operating partner of Symphony Technology Group. He spent 24 years at Texas Instruments in various executive management positions with global responsibilities, one of them as the CIO of Texas Instruments. Dr. Chatterjee earned a BS in Electronics and Communication Engineering from the IIT Kharagpur, India, where he was awarded the President of India Gold Medal for Curricular Excellence and the BC Roy Memorial Gold Medal for Extracurricular Excellence. He was the only one who received such both awards at the same time. Dr. Chatterjee received his master's and doctorate degrees in electrical engineering from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign. Instantly, my claim to fame that he studied at the same time when I studied in University of Illinois. Thank you, Palla, for joining us. Mr. Deepak Bagla. He's joining us a little later, but I will give the introduction to all of you. Mr. Bagla is currently MD and CEO of Invest India, the National Investment Promotion and Facilitation Agency promoted by the Government of India. He has a professional career of over 3 decades, starting with the World Bank in Washington, D.C., and later in '89, he joined Citibank Global Corporate and Investment Banking team and held several responsibilities across Europe, Africa, Asia, and Australia. In 2007, he joined private equity to start an India dedicated fund for core infrastructure. He's also special invitee to the official bilateral CEOs forum and a member of the Venture Capital Investment Committee of US $1.5 billion fund of funds for startups, established under the Prime Minister's Startup India Action Plan. I would like to mention that from the time I've taken over last year, Mr. Bagla has helped us a lot to all our members, giving us various insights of what government is doing to help especially the small and mid-level sector members and their industries. He has been extremely helpful. He is associated with ISCC from the time I have taken over. Let me briefly mention the webinar subject. As we're all convinced that the world is not going to be the same after COVID-19, so also economic and social interfaces and engagements. Many predict that in the emerging world economic architecture dictated by geopolitics, the US and India axis will emerge stronger. We have been hearing a lot of talk, hushed up or otherwise, from different quarters about how investments are getting relocated from China. Can India be a destination for relocation of such investments? What are the type of industries the US will prefer to relocate to India? What more the governments and central and state governments should do to attract such investments at a time when states like UP, AP, and many states, and a lot more states are vying with each other to attract US investments. With these words, I extend to all of you a very hearty welcome, and I am expecting a successful webinar today with all the wonderful speakers here. And without wasting much time, can I request Mr. Vishal Bakshi to take over and take us through today's discussions. Welcome, Vishal.
Thank you, Rajalakshmi, and thank you and welcome everyone. And great to be having this session. As you can tell from the introductory remarks, we have a very diverse and eminent panel of speakers, and there's a lot to cover. So without further ado, the format is for each of the panelists to speak about their direct experiences and the relevance of that to the opportunity at hand today in India in terms of ease of investing and capitalizing on the trends that can play in India's favor. And with that, let me hand it over to Mr. Shrikant Papat, who is the Country General Manager and Managing Director of Johnson Controls India. Just before we start, we will be taking questions at the end. Please make sure your questions are not oriented to a direct company or a specific situation. And we very much look forward to the discussion. Shrikant?
Thank you, Vishal. I think, yeah, this is a very august panel we have. and I'm going first on that. So that's a big. I think few of the things which really, as per me, being part of Johnson Controls and why we are looking at India, I'll just give a few statistics of what's happening, and then go to what are the main things which I would talk about. Let me start with Johnson Controls itself. We are a company which is dedicated to creating safe, secure, efficient, comfortable, and sustainable built environment. So that's a very brief definition of what we do. And if you look at India, in the next, it's already, changed. The economy has become one of the big economies in the last 10 to 15 years, and it's changing very, very fast. The geopolitical scenario is also helping India in terms of attracting a lot of investments. Most of the global corporations, including Johnson Controls, is looking at India in a very big way in terms of both as a market and as investment potential. So, just extending that, I think in the next 5 years, once we go to the $5 trillion mark, I think there will be a lot and lots of potential which will be coming in India. And I'm sure every company in the world is looking at that. We also have this government's agenda of pushing in 100 smart cities and a lot of investments, as we heard Vishal speaking or Rajalakshmi speaking. There are a lot of investments are being drawn to India, with different states trying to get more and more investments, and US companies are, of course, something due to our relations between India and US, they are preferring India. So that's I think some of the good things which are happening. Parallel to that, some of the labor related changes which are happening, which is also improving things. And one of the things which is a main driver of all that is the local consumption. Our GDP per capita is going to go from nearly $2,000 in 2021 to possibly $3,000+. And that is going to be the major driver, because people are going to spend. And what they're going to mainly spend is on food, housing, consumer durables, and of course, communication. And that is what is really going to help a lot of companies invest in India. Because you need a big market. And India being such a large population, which is growing in terms of their economic power, will definitely produce that kind of environment. So that's I think I would say the background of why invest in India. And that is what we also are going to follow as Johnson Controls. Of course, the ease of doing business is one of the strong, I would say, motive which drives this investments. And if every state is today measuring their ease of doing business index, which is great, because now there's an internal competition within states to get better ease of doing business. And that's all going to help the companies when they actually come to India, because it's going to be easier and easier of doing business in India. And then you have people like, the companies like Invest India, who are also helping companies to come to India, invest in India, find the right kind of space, find the right kind of connect within the government, so that you have everything like a single window. And that's again one of the strong points why things will move and are moving in India. Now coming to our own, a few points of our own presence in India. We are already present in India in different, I would say, places. One is manufacturing. We have 5 manufacturing locations already for different product lines. We want to bring in more product lines, and I'll explain why those product lines become important. And we have about 5,000 engineers working here, of which about 3,000 are working in design, which is like really designing new products. And that helps, because now we have started designing products for Indian environment. You don't have to plug a, something designed for some other environment into India, which becomes a very strong, help for Indian consumers and Indian markets. So that's what is very, very important. And as I was saying, like we are towards helping the built environment. When I say built environment, typically in a building, you need safety, and which is in terms of cameras, in terms of fire security. Yeah, so those are the kind of things which we make. We also make we secure things because we do access control, and that provides security to all the people. We drive things efficiently because we make the HVAC system, which actually consumes a lot of energy. Like if you look at today, 40% of the energy in cities is taken up by buildings. So that's a significant, I would say, area which can actually be done much more efficiently. And then we have to create a sustainable environment, because if because of the different things that we do, if we pollute the environment, that's not going to be a very good thing for the future. So that's what we do. And if you look at most of the investments which are happening in India or scheduled to happen in India are like, all the smart cities bring in a lot of smart offices. It brings in a lot of smart infrastructure. And that's where we would be focusing on, because we have the product lines for it. Now we are looking at how can we manufacture them in India so that we make it A, very efficiently available to the customers, and B, we also make it in such a way that it is more suited for the Indian environment. So I think that's what is the basis on which we are doing our business in India. And as far as smart cities go, there is a lot of things which can be done in the smart cities, especially in terms of power. Yeah, when you save power from the building, and it might be a new building, it might be an old building. We call that as I would say, a saving mechanism for the economy itself. For the building, it's called performance contracting. For that customer, it's called performance contracting. But look at it in a different way. If every building saves energy, that's energy saved for the Indian economy. That's energy saving for the government. Energy saving for all the electricity distribution companies. Because that much of energy gets produced less in the country, and that also stops pollution. So there's a lot of benefits which come out of this. And that's what we do. Now, just to give you an example, in US, we do this performance contracting after the new law was passed in 2009. And now we save $6 billion just in terms of energy and other benefits for the US government. Now that is a very, very significant thing. Now, even if you look at a lesser amount, because in India, everything is not air conditioned, everything is not high tech, but whatever we can do, maybe it's a tenth of the amount, but still it's $600 million. Now that's huge. And that's the kind of savings which can get generated once all these products are being utilized in India. All the solutions get utilized in India. And that has become a very major, I would say, initiative that we want to take, including the government kind of initiating some things, like the Bureau of Energy did it for some of the other products like this, product labelings that are there, right on the refrigerator or the air conditioner. You see the product labeling. Now they're talking about product labeling for the chillers. So like that, the government can actually help in terms of pushing the performance contracting also, like it was done in US. And that is going to be a major mover. Another thing which is a big major mover is all these farm related changes which have been done, farming related, in the law. Now that is also going to trigger a lot of agricultural economy. And when I say agricultural economy, it's not just cultivation. It's the whole food chain, right from the land or the kind of farmer to the fork. And that food chain needs a lot of carrying of the food. And that happens through cold chains, which have traditionally not taken up very strongly in India. The reason being that there were different inhibitions which the different companies had because of the legalities which are happening and the interpretations of that which are happening in India, especially the stocking part of it. So that didn't fly. But now I think the time has come when that will really start flying, and we would have really all the food that is being generated in India or produced in India really reaches the plate of the consumer. Because today I think 15 to 20% of the food gets wasted, and that's huge. So that's where the whole thing, and we have products which do that also. So we are going to really focus on these major points, which not only help the Indian consumer, but also help the Indian economy to take the next level of, I would say, progress as we go ahead. So those were the major points which I had to talk about. And, I can go on and on, but looking at the time, I think, we need to progress. But just to give a sum up of what I just now discussed, there's a lot of things going on in the Indian economy, which is going to really push a lot of investments in India. And there are a lot of positive things which the government is also doing to push that faster. And every company is trying to use India manufacturing to really push products into India, like what I explained about Johnson Controls. And that's going to help not only the Indian economy, the Indian consumer, and the Indian workers who are going to find jobs in here. So with that, let me hand it over back to Vishal. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shrikant. That was actually very interesting, very broad range of implications of what you do, and very broad impact, both in terms of growth, employment, and on the other side, savings and efficiencies. So look forward to the Q&A session also around that topic. If I could hand it next to Daniel Robin, who is the managing partner of In3 Capital Partners.
Thank you, and thank you for the invitation to speak here today. You may be wondering where I am. Behind me is the Golden Gate Bridge. We're in the San Francisco Greater Bay Area, which is near our house and offices. And I hope you can see the presentation that is up on the screen. We have quite a few points to make here and not much time to make them. I wanted you to know that the materials that I'm going to use today are available to you for review after these talks. A few of the slides I'm actually going to say, you can read this one on your own so that I don't take the group's time. We're providing funding innovation in the impact investment space. We've been quite active in India for quite some time, especially in the renewable energy sector, and we definitely see its great potential, and also as a geopolitical counter to China. It's a very helpful sector, set of industries that we are involved in, and I'm going to walk through these materials today in a rapid manner. The purpose overall today is to provide access. The presentation is about access to what we call next generation project capital, project as opposed to venture capital. Project finance is its whole other separate area. We have more information about that if you're not clear on the distinction on our website. It's for developers and promoters to take advantage of our innovative funding program with three specific objectives. One is to understand and the focus and purpose of this impact capital. Two, to identify what problems it solves in project finance and therefore what advantages it delivers, and then discover how it works, how to qualify for it, and next steps to take. A bit about us, In3 Capital Group. We've been in business since 1996. We provide innovative, streamlined private financing for mostly mid-market renewables, food, water. As a previous speaker was talking about, agriculture is definitely part of our focus. Regenerative agriculture and other types of agriculture, the organic and so on. Real estate, healthcare, and infrastructure projects worldwide. What do? We provide capital, advisory, and project development. And in cooperation, and in fact this is an example of an event, with Renewable Energy Investor Forum, now just Renewables Investor Forum. We also host events, co-host them, sponsor them, and so on. There are the websites for that. But today's focus is really on the capital side. We have clients. All of these are live linked to the companies, most of whom are actually doing well, and a few of whom are doing extremely well. What we offer, in brief, our flagship program provides term loans at 3% fixed APR with a carried interest for projects of $25 million or more, and that's either per project or aggregated into a portfolio to get above $25 million. In order to accomplish quite advantageous terms, our capital partners ask for a completion guarantee. What is that? How does that work? I'm going to go into that very briefly. First, the qualified industry sectors. Renewable energy is one of our mainstays, but we also, as I've mentioned, get involved a lot in agriculture, agroforestry, sustainable ag, the whole supply chain, food processing, and so on, as well, especially recently, more involvement in the healthcare, medical infrastructure, these kinds of things, hospitals, hospital expansions, a lot of real estate, commercial buildings, affordable housing, usually with a green angle or green aspect to it. Resource efficiency, as the previous speaker mentioned, lighting and controls is a key part of projects that we could finance. Efficiency always pays. It's always a good idea to be more efficient. And speaking of that, what is waste? Waste is displaced resources. We have a lot of deep experience in waste to value of various types, including dealing with plastics, a growing problem, recycling tires back into their elements such as recovered carbon black, biomass waste, municipal waste, you name it. There's a lot of quite well-proven solutions in these areas as well. Water, municipal waste itself is another area for actually value creation. So it goes from a liability to becoming a source of value or revenue. Okay, and so in a nutshell, what we call our capital guarantee program, its main virtue is it greatly streamlines fundraising. It might take extra work to get to the starting line to qualify for this money, but once you do, it's quite rapid and predictable, and we like that. And when it comes to financing, predictable and reliable is a good thing. We call it CGP for short, and it's not for everyone. 25 million minimum is challenging sometimes, but our partners' use of a non-traditional capital stack, which I'll explain in a moment, the combined equity and debt, so you don't have to shop around. We can deliver both of those, hybrid of equity and debt, and for up to 100% of the project's budget, providing coverage for any pre-construction costs, in case it's not entirely ready to turn dirt, as they say, or not entirely shovel-ready. We don't mind paying for those costs. It's pretty hard to beat. We rely on the SWIFT system, and this completion guarantee, in fact, eliminates the risk of fraud during construction. It allows us, therefore, to relax other rules that traditional project financiers would have to follow. This brings significant advantages for qualifying developers. And such differences, as we say, make all the difference, enabling attractive terms, which I'll get into here in the next slide, for many developers that might not otherwise even have access to impact capital. Here's a quick synopsis of the terms that we offer. The one that is negotiated is the capital that is to be invested as equity. Equity share is usually a minority equity interest in this special purpose vehicle. That's less than 49%, and to be negotiated upon completion of our due diligence. It won't cost anything to get a binding offer on the table. The bank guarantee leverage, if you try to leverage it too much, and I'll talk more about what that is in just a second, might increase our aspirations for carried interest. And some of these other points are highlighted here, as you can see, 3% APR and so on. I'll let you review this in print or PDF, I guess, after today's session, if this is of interest. But one of the other great virtues is that we managed to close and bring first funding reliably in less than 30 to 45 days. That's quite fast. I'm not sure if you're familiar with project financing, but if you are, you might appreciate that 6 to 9 months is not uncommon with institutional money. We address the top 3 obstacles to accessing capital for mid-market greenfield projects, and it could be an expansion project as well, whatever, there's new construction. The top 3 obstacles here are 100% financing. If you need all of the money, you've effectively run out of money. That's a problem for a lot of other investors. It's not an issue for us. There's an expectation for complete shovel readiness, and the time horizons to closing, as I was just mentioning, can be quite lengthy. This was and is the reason we created the Capital Guarantee Program. So I'll go through these points quickly one by one. CGP enables 100% financing, but without needing to give up control of the operating assets. We're not going to ask for a majority or controlling interest. Traditional sources of project capital that don't require the developer's contribution of new money, or unexpended funds it's called, which enables that developer to take on a meaningful share of the risks, will typically result in the loss of control. They'll have to give up a majority stake, or the investor will outmaneuver everybody and take over the operating assets. It's a bad but typical kind of phenomenon, unless you can put in substantial cash right at the beginning. Within 3 Capital Guarantee Program, you preserve your equity interest and any remaining cash or capital on hand, because we can provide 100% financing with no lien against the operating assets. No lien means that in practice, once the project is completed, you could then pledge those assets. The project itself will have tangible assets, can be used for subsequent financing. It's really our goal here is to allow a flourishing of many good projects, impact projects, as many as possible and as quickly as possible. We're providing a hybrid of equity and mezzanine debt, so there's really no need to shop around. Sometimes if you think you would like a 100% loan, good luck with that. It's not often done. We're saying we can provide a loan and equity at the same time, the amount of equity to be negotiated, and we'll make it a lot more simple, therefore. And the third, we can cover the costs of the guarantee bank. The bank guarantee usually charges a fee, which varies from bank to bank, which can be reimbursed out of our funds. So we don't mind paying for that, but finding a way to get the bank to issue the guarantee or a sponsor to do so is the key step in this process. And we'll talk a little bit more about that. I'm already at 9 minutes, so I'm going to have to move quicker. Second point, complete shovel readiness. We don't require that. Even if you are ready to turn dirt, as they say, that's fine. What will it take to reach commercial operation reliably with absolute certainty? This is where we come in. Our capital partners are flexible about the stage of development, status of permits. You might not have everything completely ready. You may need a geotechnical report or some other aspect of the project site. The selection of vendors could be ongoing. That's fine. We're willing to pick up the costs for that. You just need to disclose them properly in the uses of funds. We also use a monthly draw schedule, which we'll talk about. Second point, can accept certain risks that frankly others just won't. Operational risks. Even some modest amount of technology risk is fine. We have a balanced portfolio and we know how to make certain that most projects are successful. And then as an equity partner alongside you, we have aligned incentives. We all want it to win. We all want the project to work well. So we rely a bit on that. We'll find ways to make it work, not to use remaining readiness gaps against you to hold things up or to try to gouge or take more than what is a fair, reasonable share of access to cash flows. Okay, and so this is the tricky one. Everybody wants financing faster, often in response to how long does it take. Traditional project finance will probably not be able to tell you. How's never? Does never work for you? The time horizon to closing in traditional project finance is very, very hard to predict. This is one of the things we really love about this process. Once there is a qualifying capital guarantee, it's no more than 30 days to closing. And then after that, no more than 30 to 45 days to the first funding. That's lightning fast by project finance standards. And so concerns about technology risk, completion risk, regulatory risk, these all go away. Traditional project financiers just use a different model. you'll encounter endless questions from them about who, what, why, where. It all takes time and could stall out. Our questions are really about finding ways to make it work in order to close as soon as possible. Here's a chart. I'm not going to go through today. This is one for your study if you're interested in this. Just an example. Some of these points, you know, the fact is that there are some hundreds of points used in due diligence in traditional project financing. We're really transferring construction risk, which is non-completion risk, and so we can reach closing in typically 2 to 4 weeks. We're not using a traditional capital stack, and the rest of these points will be in the PowerPoint presentation that you can receive. Okay, I need to mention, well, wait a minute, what is this capital guarantee? What actually is it? How does it work? It's really offsetting the risk of project non-completion. And so used in this way, guarantee transfers the risk during construction to an issuing bank. That bank is usually backed by an asset, a standby letter of credit, under rules that make it very difficult for us to call it. It's only in the event of fraud, quite frankly. And I'm sure none of you are going to be fraudulent. This is what we're up to. We're making sure that everyone gets the project complete and that we can proceed from there. What kind of assets can be used? It's really between you and the bank, the issuing bank or the sponsor's bank, but it doesn't have to be cash, a balance sheet and so on, gold, a line of credit, corporate balance sheet. All these things are perfectly reasonable sources of collateral to provide a guarantee to start the process. There's lots of information available on our website, all kinds of resources. And so this is uniquely suited to developers that really don't have asset depth, or they don't happen to have rich friends or family members, and they can involve what we call a sponsor or a stakeholder, such as the engineering, procurement, or construction firm, a general contractor, or OEM or vendor, as a way to enable the bank guarantee on their behalf. This same company would take on a role in the project typically. So you have a short list of potentially qualifying general contractors or EPC firms, and you select the one that's able to bring a partial guarantee. By next year, at some point, we intend to be able to help developers involve a sponsor, as we're interviewing them right now. More about this on our website. So there's a summary slide you could read, but we like to say that this approach to capital for projects is faster, easier, and better. Another summary slide. Point is that we're radically increasing the probability and speed of financial closing, and we're doing it at terms that are still quite attractive. And a few success tips. These are specific to India, and I hope that these are helpful to you all. Really good idea is to focus on a project with strong financial fundamentals. If you know the project is going to make money, that's a step in the right direction. Then you just have to document it so that there's proof of it. The loan can be in local currency. We're happy with INR, rupees, received and repaid. Just so you know, though, the guarantee or standby letter of credit that's used for transferring completion risk, it should be in dollars or euros. You find a rated commercial bank to issue the guarantee. And I highly, highly recommend that you do not accept the first response. First response is often no, because they're not familiar with our program. They assume other things are going on. And so you really need to listen and attempt to understand their concerns. But it's a fact that they'll usually not exactly understand what you're trying to do. So it'll take some back and forth. Don't rush, do things properly, use facts to persuade them. And remember, the standby letter of credit bank guarantee is only used to guarantee completion. Once the asset reaches commercial operation date, official completion of the project, it's released. The guarantee goes away. It's officially, technically it expires. And then from there on, there is no guarantee for the project asset. The asset that was used can then be recommitted or repurposed. And so I would like you all to feel free to contact our lead affiliate in India. His name is Kabir Minhas, and there is his contact information. And I suppose we're going to have time for questions later. Is that right, Raja? And
Yes, yes.
our moderator, we're going to take questions at the end?
Yes.
Thank you, Daniel.
Okay. Thank you for your
Very clear
attention.
and very differentiated, especially on the speed. With that, let me hand it over to Mr. Alok Agarwal, Chief Financial Officer, Reliance Industries.
Good morning. Thanks, Vishal. I'm going to talk for a little while as much about ease of investing in India as well as, more importantly, the opportunity that India presents to everybody who's potentially thinking about investing in India. As a large Indian company, it's an obvious thing to say that we are big believers in the Indian market. This has been the reason for all our success over the decades. And we are virtually investing. Every new investment is very focused on India. And we look upon India, as I'm sure many of you do, in simple terms. 1 billion consumers and 3 trillion of market opportunity in the next 5 years. And if you just think about the Indian market and opportunity in those simple terms and why it is an investment destination for us and why it should be an investment destination for all of us is around where it is today. And one has to start with a minute on demographics, simply because the demographics keep getting better every year and are frankly one of our biggest strengths. So if you think about it, between millennials, Generation Z, whatever we call them, they are now 52% of India's population. The median age in India is 28 years, 38 for China, 43 for Europe. So we are indeed at least a decade younger than most of the large economies around the world. We are adding between 5 to 10 million people to the workforce every year. It's both a great opportunity in terms of the expanding market, but as we also know, it's also an equal challenge in terms of jobs, employment, which we are all aware of. The other thing, I think it's very simple to add one more data point, is that India expects to add between 60 and 70 million households to what is called the middle class status within the next decade. And that is bringing more households to consumption income than anywhere else in the world. So we see the demographics and then we look at where India is in its building blocks. And I think the story is very, very compelling from our point of view, which I want to share with all of you. First, let's look at where India has progressed. A lot has been talked about the digitization, the digital revolution in India, the immense potential of retail in India, and why that's bringing investors all over the world. And we are also finally beginning to talk about the renaissance in manufacturing over the next decade. If we take these three building blocks for growth and spend a minute on each, that will highlight why it is almost imperative and critical for everybody to be part of the Indian market and participate in it. But let's just look at the digital infrastructure and let's just look at the digital revolution that's happened in India. So if you wound the clock back to just over 4 to 5 years, data consumption in India has gone up 40 times in 4 years. It's gone up from what used to be 240, 250 MB per month to now, as we all know, roughly 12 gigabytes per month. Data speed is also up 40 times. Quite remarkable if you step back and think about it. The days that we were doing 256 to 512 kbps to now having 20 Mbps. And India's share in global data traffic has gone up from less than 1% to 17% now. And very importantly, we now have nearly 500 million smartphone users. And I think everybody is talking about this number getting close to 1 billion in less than 5 years from now. And the impact that this has had on the Indian economy and on the Indian consumer is now pretty apparent as we look across and we think about how we spend our time, how we work, how we shop. The digital revolution is upon us. Let me give a few examples. I think you have seen virtually every bank in India talk about digital services, digitization, mobile banking, net banking, all the services that are now being offered are essentially new. These are services that have been offered or being offered in the last 4-5 years, primarily on the basis of the digital infrastructure that the country now has and the ability to take mobile banking to virtually every consumer. We are having one of the most vibrant fintech ecosystems in the world. There is a number about fintechs and startups being in excess of 10 to 15,000, which was almost impossible to comprehend 5 years ago. But this is another part of the digital revolution that we are seeing in India. We are seeing new fintech platforms which are democratizing credit and making it available to virtually all classes of consumers. We are seeing new entertainment platforms, and work from home is obviously increasing their popularity by multiple fold. But more importantly, we are seeing very successful new platforms in healthcare, in education, in insurance. In all this, frankly, in the last 4 to 5 years. So there are very few, if any, examples around the world where we are seeing digitization and digital infrastructure having such a profound impact, not only on the people, the development of the gig economy, which is creating more jobs than manufacturing, people say in these times, but also on what large companies, large brands are able to do in the Indian market because they can reach the consumers now digitally. If we look at retail, another big area of interest for us and a big area of interest for virtually every global player, the story is pretty similar. It's a large market. It's a large $800 billion market, but also it's a market which is still 80 to 85% unorganized. And that creates its own set of challenges and, more importantly, its own set of opportunities. Every study talks about a 10% compounded growth in retail in India, just as incomes increase, disposable incomes increase, and the digital revolution essentially leads to higher and higher consumer aspirations over a period of time. But retail in India is very different from retail all across the world. Retail in India is delivered through approximately 30 million merchants, small businesses, service providers, and less than 10% comes from organized retail players. E-commerce, even though it gets a lot of advertising budgets and prominence, is still only between 3 to 5% of the Indian retail market as compared to 15 to 20% in any large economy. Consumption levels still very, very low. We see Indian consumption levels at between 10 to 20% of what we see in US, Europe, and China. If you take examples, if you take an example of washing machines, less than 10% of the households have washing machines, less than 5% have ACs, and less than 4% of the global TV market is in India. So still many, many years, one may argue decades of growth that is available in the market. And the market is gathering momentum, which is really going from unorganized to organized on the back of digitization, on the back of moving away from the large cities to what we call tier 2, 3, and 4 cities, So the market is growing in breadth, the market is growing in width, and the market is growing in depth. And this is, I think, one of the most exciting parts of the Indian economy, where we can see a long runway of growth for at least a decade. And it is being powered by technology. It's being powered by the low consumption rates that we have now. And it is being powered by consumer aspirations. And finally, being powered by the availability of credit for day-to-day purchases, which was not there 4 to 5 years ago. So we think that when you look at any large retail company around the world, and you look at the opportunity that India provides, and it is both for everybody, the Indian retail market is one of the most attractive in the world, simply because of its many, many years of growth ahead and the fact that it can be reached through technology. So these, between digitization, digital revolution, whatever we call it, and the growth of the retail market in India, both of them are absolutely critical to our aspirations as a country in terms of job creation, in terms of proliferation of technology. And I think as more and more people look at India, and we look at India too, we are seeing it not just as a market which one can participate in. It's also quite clear that over a period of time, India will develop capabilities and corporations which can take our products to the rest of the world. We can take our technologies to the rest of the world and be part of that kind of international growth than just a domestic-based economy. So this really makes us very excited about the fact that the market provides more opportunities and is at a stage where it is far from mature and has several years and decades ahead of growth and can be accessed through the existing technology infrastructure. Makes it, I think, different and more exciting than any other place. I'm going to stop here and hand it back to Vishal and look forward to your questions later.
Thank you so much, Alok. That's a huge and tremendous opportunity that you highlighted, and a very long-term one at a national level. And I think this is a moment in time we will look back at and see the opportunity that Raja Lakshmi referred to in these COVID times that has created a huge opportunity looking forward for us to seize this moment and play into these long-term trends. With that, let me pass this to Mr. Deepak Bagla, who is the Managing Director and CEO of Invest India.
Hi, Vishal. Good to see you. I hope I made it in time. First, let me congratulate Mrs. Rao. I mean, this is exceptional what she's got everyone together on this platform. And really so timely and so important for doing this. And I was hearing Alok, I'm seeing you after a long time. It's actually decades. And not that you look very different.
Thank you, Deepak.
Appreciated much faster than others. But you've done a great job, I must say. Listen, thank you very much for getting me. What I thought is, let me just share with you actually what is happening. And before that, just to put it in perspective, to let you know what Invest India is all about, it's the National Investment Promotion and Facilitation Agency promoted by the government. And essentially what it does is we've got four verticals for us. The first is investment promotion and facilitation. We're the single point of contact for any investor coming into India. The team shows them the opportunity, gets them all approvals, get them land, labor, gets them partners, and then handholds them right through their journey in India. And as a part of that entire exercise, it's also the body which supports the government in a lot of policy making, be that the foreign direct investment policy or be that the industrial policy. And I'll refer to both of these a bit later. So it's a complete comprehensive suite of services, I must add. There are no charges to any investor on that. And where that specifically is concerned, America and the US is a very, very special relationship. We have a dedicated team to handhold, and each one of you will have a dedicated relationship manager. In fact, we're working with many of you anyway. The second is Startup India, which was started. We are the execution arm of Startup India. I'll touch on that briefly. The third, what we call, is the Prime Minister's Science and Technology Initiative. We are again the execution arm for that. That's very critical. That's where we are picking up projects like Waste to Wealth, Sentinel projects across the country. Or what we are doing is fast tracking of innovations in the country onto commercialization, both in the private sector and the government sector. And the last part, obviously, is supporting the government in monitoring this entire activities. So, you know, the National Infrastructure Pipeline, which was announced by the finance minister, monitored by her, etc. They are all under us, and I'll touch on that briefly. But let me just come back with a few comments, and some of them related to Alok. And by the way, I must compliment Daniel. I've been a banker for a large part of my life, and I don't think I've ever seen loans being granted in such a manner, in such a quick manner. So I'm sure you don't give out free checks, but there must be something. But that's very revolutionary and very timely when you guys concerned. We are today in day, let me just calculate. We are day 165, according to me, 156 of the most unprecedented lockdown in human history. Never before have you had 1.3 billion people being locked down across. You look at any axis of diversity, and that sits where we talk about, that is in India. So just to see how do we get out of this little virus, what has happened to us during this virus as we speak. But before that, let me just step back a minute and tell you what happened just when we went into it. So, you know, our financial year closure is 31st March. So this 31st March this year, we closed with an FDI of $74 billion. It's the highest ever we've got in our history. And the other interesting thing is, if you look at it, this is at a time when global FDI was going down by 8 to 9%, and our share went up by 17 to 18%. And now we've looked at as one of the top investment destinations in the world. But there are two other interesting points to the 74 billion. One is that 93% of it came in what we call as the open route, which meant that it don't require any specific approvals. That also means that we are one of the most open economies on the planet, with the private sector having the ability to play a role in virtually each and every sector of my economy. The second is more interesting, and Daniel, you should be excited about this one. Close to 50% of that 74 billion is greenfield investment. In fact, between 40 and 50%. We are now one of the top greenfield investment destinations in the world. And why is that? The reason is, and some points were picked up by Alok on that one, let me just bring that to you. India is at one of its most interesting inflection points in its history. And in fact, what is happening in India today is unprecedented in human history, both in terms of scale and the pace at which things are happening in the free democratic world. Let me give you an example. Before we went into this virus, and that is March, we were the fastest, largest, and the youngest. We were the fastest growing large economy on the planet. In the past 60 months, in terms of a total GDP size, we raced ahead of Russia, Italy, Brazil, France, UK. In 60 months. We're now looking to move ourselves closer to Germany in the next 12 months, and hopefully, well, in the top 3 by the next decade. So what are we talking about? Today, I have a GDP in excess of $3 trillion. I'm looking at $10 trillion by 2030. That means in the next 10 years, I'll be adding $7 trillion to the bottom lines of each and everyone who's going to be partnering with us in this entire growth. And I will speak about how we look ourselves coming out of this COVID to retain the position of being the fastest growing large economy. The second I told you is the size of the economy. Unprecedented. 1.5 billion will be my customer base by 2024-25. It'll be the largest customer base on the planet. In fact, I don't see any other single national geography having a customer base of 1.5 billion, at least for the next 100 years. And as Alok mentioned, one of the youngest for at least the next 80 years, average age 28, 29. And the most interesting element of this is that how fast and rapidly is this economy moving up. We are now taking the shape of an onion where there's a huge bulge in the middle. And as per estimates of that 1.5 billion, which we are talking of, by the way, of that 1.5 billion, a billion will be under the age of 35. That's to show you the working class and the hands on the deck, which we will be having. The interesting thing on that will be, and as per estimates, that between 70 to 80% of this households will be in the middle income group. And the other interesting feature of this inflection point is that India is at a pace, as a point of leapfrogging. And I'll give you, that means we are jumping through stages of growth and moving on very fast. And I'll give you one instance. Alok mentioned to you about data usage. Let me give you an idea. We all agree data is the new oil. Just about 4 years ago, my global ranking in data usage was 123. And let me say per capita data usage. Alok mentioned per capita, so let's be fair. Let's talk about per capita data usage, because if I multiply anything by 1.3, I'll be far ahead of anyone else. I was 123 just 48 months ago in global rankings on per capita mobile data usage. Today, my position earlier this year was #1 in the world. We consumed more per capita mobile data than the US and China put together. That's how fast it is moving. And again, let me take you what is happening now. We have a very interesting India stack, which is I've got 1 billion people on a mobile, I've got 1 billion people attached to a bank account, I have 1 billion people with a unique identity number. Today, I have 745 million people on the net. Every second, 3 new people joining the net, 2 of those 3 coming from a village. That means that I'll be 1 billion on the net in the next 5 years. Look at this pillar with 4 legs to it. And let me give you one instance what is happening and how it impacts your business. For the first time in human economic history, a brand new company got 100 million new customers in 180 days at an acquisition price per customer of 1/5 of the global average. So what happened, not only is this market opportunity unprecedented, the ability to access that opportunity is now probably coming out to be one of the easiest ever. And the third element of that, and what has happened during these past 156 days of this virus impacting us, is that the government, led by our Prime Minister, Mr. Modi, has taken it and has announced unprecedented opportunities again and unprecedented reforms just to make the investor journey easier. Let me just spend a few minutes on this one. So I told you about the large opportunity. I told you how easy it is for you to access that opportunity. And now it is how we are going to make this journey, as he says, one of the easiest for you anywhere else in the world. And what is happening on that one is that, for example, a single window has been announced, which the team is currently working on. It'll be operational by the first quarter of next year. That means you come in, and a lot of you from the US realize the complexity of working within a federal structure. In the Indian structure, it will be, you will just come on to the portal, fill out an application, one single application, put your documents at one place, you get all your approvals there. The second is land, which everybody talks about, and the transparency which has been brought about in land allocation. We've actually already released that portal about 3 weeks ago. On that portal, you can go, you can see the lands state by state. We've got a few states on it already. The others are being added on very quickly. You can go on and see the land availability, click on that little plot, and you can see the entire dimensions, how far it is from the airport, what is the skill available there, and how do you apply for it. The third is a single team has been created under the cabinet secretary, which is the senior most civil servant we have in India, to fast track all approvals, which comes in. So what are we doing that? We are making the investor journey easier and much more friendly. And the most interesting thing which is happening now I have about 3,400 industrial clusters. Each of these clusters has a huge sense of specialization to it. And look at it on a product-wise or a sector-wise. What they are doing now is on a very fast track, upgrading these clusters and creating them in a plug-and-play model. That means you just come, plug, and you're all set. So what am I seeing which is happening in terms of trends? Let me share some numbers with you. Let me just start by giving you some data which came out of the Financial Times of the UK. And they have the FDI markets, which does a lot of work on FDI flows across the world. And let me give you data on what they have said is greenfield FDI projects from US to China and from US to India. Okay? And these are for the years 2017, 18, 19, and 20. 20 means January until May. So they're going by calendar years. I'll read out the data for you. 2017, 172 companies, greenfield projects came from US to India. 170 went to China. 2018, 187 came to India. 202 went to China. 2019, 199 came to India. 185 to China. And 2020, the figure is until May, January to May, 38 to India, 22 to China. What is happening? To my mind, what this little virus has done, that it has accentuated and catalyzed that underlying trend of de-risking supply chains and de-risking business lines and onshoring and reshoring supply chains to where the market is. In fact, the kind of queries and the rush I've got today, I'll be doing a 3x of my team, my own team at Invest India in the next 6 months. I'm currently hand-holding with a dedicated relationship manager close to 600 global corporates with a total indicated investment of close to $70 billion. And what am I seeing here? That these supply chains are getting reshored in a very fast track basis. And they are wanting to come, and the queries today are no longer about show me the opportunity. The queries are please get me the land. This team has never had such a pressure of businesses moving in as we are seeing, which is happening today. Alok mentioned about Startup India, and before I end, I just must give you this few interesting statistics on Startup India. Startup and innovation has been the core focal strength of India. And the core focal strength of India is MSMEs and startups. Let me, by the way, before that, tell you what happened in these 156 days of MSMEs. You know, I have 65 million MSMEs. In fact, one of the strengths of India is frugal innovation. And I'll give you an instance on that. On the 30th of March, when we went into the lockdown, I did not have a single PPE in India. In fact, the team was scurrying around across the globe, trying to get masks, trying to get ventilators, trying to get PPE gowns. And you know, it was just limited to 3 or 4 countries which were open. And it was impossible to get it going with the supply chains completely locked. The team worked with MSMEs, the team worked with startups, connected them to large scale companies. You know what the run rate I had was on 30th of July? I have 800,000 PPEs a day. Not just enough for myself, I'm exporting them across the globe, including the US and UK. This is how nimble my startups are. This is how nimble are the business models of my MSMEs. This is the strength of India. And when we talk about this digitization, which I talked to you about, that is going to be the backbone which will create the new India, because the growth of new India is going to be propelled bottom up from each of these places. And that takes me to my startup. The startup is a very recent movement in India. In the US, it started in the 60s. For us, it started just 48 months ago on 16th of January, 2016, when it was launched by the Honorable Prime Minister. Let me tell you where we are. We're just about 56 months away from there. In 56 months, I'm number 3 in the world in number of unicorns. In fact, last year we added a unicorn every month. I'm number 2 in the world in number of startups. Ahead of the UK, as per market statistics, my startups are close to 60,000. I'm number 1 in the world with new startups adding every day ahead of Israel. I'm over 7 startups adding every day. And you know what is the most unique thing about this, which is what gets me when I told you that the new India is going to be bottom up and is going to be propelled from there? It is that, you know, India is divided into 730 administrative districts geographically. 565 of them have a registered startup. From my small little places, from my small little towns and cities across the country. And the strength of those startups is I had one of the top 3 PE firms in the world. I'm saying 3 because it need not be 3, it could be in the top 2. One of their founders and a renowned individual into my office last year in October. He came in for 40 minutes because he was just in Delhi for a day. And he had multiple meetings across all senior government officials, canceled all meetings, stayed for 4 hours. He had wanted to meet my startups. I had 12 of them in my conference room. He walked out of that conference room, had invested his personal money in 5 of them, came into my office and said, Mr. Bagla, this is my visiting card for them. The most amazing thing about your startups is that they are giving me solutions which are applicable to 6 billion of the world's population and not just the top 500 million. And solutions which are scalable at a completely different radical price point. This is the strength of India. The opportunity is immense. For me, we are turning around that inflection point of the hockey stick and ready to take on to the vertical path. Out of this COVID, is it a U or a V? In my opinion, we are looking at a sharp U. I'm also seeing railway freight numbers going up. I'm seeing my MSME collections go up, my tractor sales go up, my petrol consumption going up. All indicators month by month are showing we are trying to see how fast do we move out of it. The early lockdown which we had has helped us contain this little virus. And for example, today 86% of my cases are sort of confined to about 6 states out in India, which is out of 27, 28. This is where India is all set now to retain its position of being the fastest growing large economy, of being one of the most unprecedented opportunities. And we look forward here to partner with each one of you as we work on this growth trajectory. We at Invest India welcome you. You'll have a dedicated relationship manager with us. IACC is a very close partner of ours, and we look forward to working together and seeing you all. Thank you, Mrs. Rao. Thank you very much for getting this all together, and for the panelists. I don't know if I've exceeded my time, but I always get carried away when these things happen. So I'll be quiet and I'll take it back to you, Vishal. Thank you.
Thank you, Deepak. The passion and the commitment clearly come across, as does, I think, the tremendous opportunity in your own team, Tripling. Thank you for sharing your perspective. We only have 7 minutes left, and we have 2 panelists to speak. But having said that, I do want to pass this over to Dr. Pallab Chatterjee, who is the chairman of 3 Lines Venture Capital, to share his perspectives. And please, if you have any questions, please do post them on the chat so we can clear out as many of them as we can as we continue this discussion. Pallab?
Yeah, I'm aware of the fact that we're pretty much short of time, so I'll make a few comments. First of all, I've been associated with actually US investments in India from 1984 when we had Texas Instruments do the first software investment in India, and eventually led to the big, huge IT services sector. I think there's a lot of things have been said through the last few panelists, especially Alok and Mr. Bagla. What we believe here is that we want to be able to look at 3 major disruptions we believe are coming, and the disruptions actually are, still things that are not easily initiated out of India right now. One is the future of work. Let me tell you, everybody talks about the gig economy. The gig economy was not initiated in India, but it's actually a fast follower. But there's a hell of a lot more things that are going to happen in the future of work compared to where we were, because of the disruption that is caused to the working environment that the COVID situation has got us into. The second is the future of enterprise. We also believe that the enterprise of the future is going to look quite different based on variety of disruptive technologies that are coming in. And then the third is the future of industry. Everybody talks about Industry 4.0 and digital twins. There are massive approvals happening, massive different technologies that are being able to disrupt these. I think the opportunity in India to actually take all of the horsepower of what you just heard from Mr. Deepak Bagla and apply it to actually leapfrogging the world in these disruptions is what excites me the most. We at Three Lions are actually dedicated to investing in these three areas: future of work, future of industry, and future of enterprise. Today, I'd like to showcase in a couple of minutes one of the disruptive technologies that we have actually invested in India that is really producing amazing results. Our investment is a company called Our Foods, is disrupting the processing in India by turning farmers into food processing entrepreneurs. Our Foods company has been able to actually bring down the cost of local food processing down to a few lakhs, 2 to 2.5 lakhs, and therefore addressing some 14 to 18 billion dollars of post-harvest losses and being able to completely disrupt that whole marketplace and the supply chain. In the last 1 year that they have been in progress business, they now have 400 of these franchises, and with the COVID actually driving a lot of the younger people back into the villages, this is a huge opportunity for them to become entrepreneurs. And Our Foods right now has a backlog of 5,000 applicants in 5 states, and their backlog is growing every day. So we're tied up with a few banks to be able to actually build this out. And the interesting thing is that for a 2.5 lakh food processing plant, they're actually producing somewhere near $100,000 equivalent of food that is actually being put into the marketplace with a much more condensed supply chain. So this is just an example of a way to disrupt something that is considered, very established, but also considered very wasteful from where we are. So with that, since the time is short, I'll give it back to Vishal so that we can actually continue and finish in time.
Thank you so much, Bala. Look, just to give you brief background and just incremental comments, I think we've covered a lot of ground here. My background is I founded a private equity firm that focuses on technology companies that leverage India to scale globally, to help to solve problems of global enterprises. And so basically, as you think about what Pallab was saying about the services story and how that has been such a success story for India in the past, what Deepak Bagla was talking about in terms of the number of startups that have come and the ecosystem India has created just in the last few years, $3 billion has gone into 400 companies to scale them into global businesses. And so that's really the need of the hour. There is, on the one side, frugal capital use and innovation that Deepak talked about. On the other side, a new world order that I think you've heard everyone talk about in terms of catalyzing investment into India. And I would just make 3 additional observations. The first is ease of investing. The capital is flowing, as you heard with the FDI numbers. What's required is a change in mindset. And it's a mindset of taking more risk, taking that capital and absorbing it efficiently and proving you can scale it, having a product even more than a services mindset, and being able to really scale one's business domestically and globally. The second observation I'd like to make is we all talk GDP, but let's also think of value creation. And in a lot of new industries, the value creation is well beyond, the multiples of revenue can be a lot higher, and they can be 5, 10, or even higher times. So when you think of the SaaS companies that are growing out of India and the unicorns that are being created, the pace at which these companies are growing to billion-dollar companies may have been 15 to 20 years for the services companies. Today, that can be 5 to 7 years. And then finally, as Alok was talking about the scale and number of people, data will be an asset for India, because the number of people, the ability to use the information of transactions that happen will have global relevance. And I think we've all talked about how this is not just about the 1.3, 1.5 billion, but the relevance to the 6 billion. So let me stop there from the perspective of our comments. It's already past the hour. I don't see any specific questions that have not been answered. I think there's one more for you, Dan, which perhaps we could answer one-on-one, but otherwise, Rajalakshmi, I'll hand it back to you for concluding remarks.
You can answer that question for Daniel, because it's important for people to know that. Let Daniel answer that. We have some time.
You see the question?
Yes. Its question is there any source for funding a green energy agro-based feedstock, MSME, small, medium-sized enterprise projects having appetite for less than $10 million $10 million to start with, while the presently operating pilot project has been established? Technology, tech feasible, not yet, cross financial break even. Yes, we get this kind of question a lot, and it's an interesting challenge. 25 million and going higher probably in the new year. Everyone except the early stage investors that are focused there, project finance tends to go larger and larger, right? It tends to goes with capital markets, with inflation, with just it's about as efficient to finance something at 100 million as it is 20 million. And so the part of the answer to this specific inquiry is going to be, well, what do you actually have? You know, what do you have to show so far, and where are you trying to go? It's common for us to be able to extend the time horizon out to 3, 4, 5 years and make the capital available as a finance facility if that gets it above 25 million. So you can include some expansion, build on the success of the early years to get above 25 million. We've also seen many, many smaller projects aggregated into one portfolio and financed through one facility. That also works. Lots and lots of, say, rooftop solar or something. So it's a business model question, really, at the end of the day. So I'd like to, I don't know, did I answer this question at least in part? Does that help?
Yes. Thank you, Daniel. I don't see any other specific questions on the chat. And so given the overflow, Rajalakshmi, I'll hand it back to you for concluding remarks.
All those, they're not questions, but they're all excitement. Everybody is dreaming high, and they're writing about how beautifully Mr. Bagla has opened up, how all of you, Daniel and Pallab and Mr. Bapat, where is he? I don't see him. Yes, hello. Yes, and the vision of Vishal and Mr. Alok Agrawal opening it, saying how beautifully our country can really grow big, you know, how we can scale it. And the way Mr. Bagla spoke, I think we're completely under dreamland. I've already like spaced it up there, and I'm very excited our members got this very, very positive response from you, Mr. Bagla. Not only have been talking to us from day one, I've taken over, but all our members have really, you know, benefited from what you have helped us over the time. But today it's an exceptional opening of, you know, India to US and rest of the world, and where we are going to go. I mean, it's beautiful. And I'm sure like 3 years from now, or even less than that, we can all just look back and say, wow, did we not say this then? It has happened. And that's what is going to happen. And I'm, you know, it is so nice to see such positive side of India and put up so well. I cannot thank you all enough because you've taken time off from US and in India from your busy schedules. With difficulty, I got you, but you've honored my wish and you came in. I'm extremely grateful from Indo-American Chamber of Commerce. You found us important enough catalyst to hear and then add on value to our country and to business relations between India and US. And before I sort of let you all go into your other work timings, can I just request our team who has supported me fully, our team, Mr. Kamal Vora, who's our Secretary General, and our Director, Trupti, and then we have Satya, another co-director, and Saga, who had worked on this event. I thank all of them for having supported it fully. And from all of us, we have a very humble gift to give you. Just please accept it in our name. Mr. Shrikant Bapat, honored to have you with us. A bountiful tree is going to be planted in your name in Mumbai, and it's going to grow tall, and it's going to give shade and make Mumbai greener. And this is a small certificate that will be sent to you. Please accept our humble offering.
Thanks a lot.
Mr. Daniel Robin, we cannot put it in your San Francisco, but we'll definitely put it in Mumbai. And we would like you to come and visit and check out what all investments you've done in India, you know, in a year or so when we have vaccine. And then we'll show you where your plant is. It would have grown taller in your name and investments would have gone higher in your name. We may have a forest in no time under your name. Thank you so much, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We
Mr.
will water
Alok
it.
Agarwal. Where is Mr. Alok Agarwal? I'm not seeing him on the to say to him directly. Alok is such a humble human being. He just didn't want to really talk much about himself. Although all our eyes are on what he's doing over the 30 years in Reliance. And Reliance has started us to dream high. I mean, every Indian suddenly woke up one day and said, why can't we also do something? Why aren't we doing something? This is the excitement you brought in. And, you know, that's the spirit, to be able to dream high. And you at Reliance, you're dreaming high and you are part of that 30 years and added so much value to Reliance, but the whole country. We thank you. You can have gardens and gardens, but then from our humble ISCC side, a small grow tree will be put up in your name in Mumbai city. Thank you very much for joining us, Alok. It is really a feather in my cap that you actually joined us. Dr.
Thank you, Rajalakshmi. Thank you so much.
And Dr. Pallab Chatterjee, I have to say, he's my oldest friend from past, I don't know, some 35 years or even more. And I think more. And we studied in Urbana-Champaign. And it is so nice to have him back to speak about investing in India. And what he talked about is so interesting that now that farmers' bill has cleared, they can have food processing industry right outside their doorstep. Fantastic idea. So all the transportation is cut off. I mean, it's awesome. I mean, you'll really make India, you know, the rural areas. Thank your company for making it better in gaining, you know, business with in India and abroad also. Thank you very much, Pallab, for joining us from Dallas.
Thank you.
And Mr. Deepak Bagla, the dream trendsetter. You are our dream trendsetter. You have really given such a fantastic picture of what is happening. Everybody keeps sitting in their sofas, not much is happening, whatever. You know, such a negative approach. You know, we just somehow Indians feel like that. We need people like you to keep talking like this. I think I also would join you saying the same thing. We have a great future. We are going to be like #1 in no time, you know, more or less. It's just like we look back, as I said, we will be so excited. We were all part of this journey together. And we encouraged all our people, Indians, members, MSMEs, big people, small people, everybody, we held their hand. Deepak, you're a big source of inspiration to all of us. Thank you so much for all your help to ISCC and also for your valuable talk today. And this tree is in your name. Please come and visit us in Mumbai and we will give it to you. I think he left. And now Vishal Bakshi himself, he is doing amazing work, not only in Goldman Sachs and personally, now that he started, he's doing a lot of business between India and US. But since he is a moderator, he didn't speak much about his work. He's a brilliant person who actually accepted my request and moderated the whole show. Thank you, Vishal, for having joined us and done this honor to me. And in your name, a bountiful tree will be in Mumbai and you will be seeing it in Mumbai as it grows. Thank you so much. And thank you all the panelists. And once again, let us meet one day and say, we predicted it and it happened. And that's what I want to hear. So thank you very much and have a good day. And the ones in US, good night.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much for this opportunity.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, Deepak.